Thank you, Stuart, and good morning. Again, my name is Tiffany Bernard. This is Mary Becker. She works in my office with us, and we are glad that you're here with us today so we can talk to you about recruitment and clinical trials, which we know can all be a challenge, and today we're going to hopefully address some strategies, some best practices, and some facts that we hope will assist you along your journey, okay?
Good morning. Excuse me. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mary Becker. I work in the Center for Clinical and Translational Science, as Tiffany mentioned. We are part of the recruitment and retention. So I don't know if some of you have already used our services or if this is new to you. If you have not heard of it, we would love to be a part of your clinical trials and see if we can help you get some participants. That's what this is all about. And I just skipped my first slide. There we go. So the first couple slides that we've got are very simple. We talk about the collective recognition that patient recruitment is a key factor of success in clinical trials. Of course, we need people to actually run these clinical trials for us. That's why we're here to help you. 19% of trials were closed or terminated early because they could not accrue enough participants. As much as 86% of those clinical trials do not reach recruitment targets within their specified time periods. I don't know if any of you have run into this yet, if any of you have run these clinical trials, and again, if you've used our services or not. Hopefully we can try and alleviate these issues for you. Perhaps the most important is the inability to meet recruitment goals, which ultimately affects our patients because potential new discoveries are not reaching those who need it the most. The scope of factors that affect recruitment to clinical trials suggests a fundamental need for more inclusive and proactive approaches that extend beyond common study-specific strategies. Again, that's what recruitment and recruitment and retention is here for, is again to help you. In different ways to recruit your study participants and hopefully to retain them within your studies. Tiffany?
To advance a more comprehensive approach to trial recruitment, the Clinical Trials Transformation Initiative, also known as CTTI, convened a project team to examine the challenges and to issue actionable evidence-based recommendations for improving recruitment planning. They utilized a multi-stakeholder effort to develop a framework that delineates the three areas essential to strategic recruitment planning efforts: trial design and protocol development, trial feasibility and site selection, and communication. This is one of their graphics that they created following their work. So the trial and recruitment planning elements for trial design and protocol development center on sources of input, design elements, and activities that drive recruitment. These elements have an impact on recruitment but cannot easily be revised after a study launches. Trial feasibility and site selection planning elements encourage a proactive consideration of trial feasibility and site selection issues earlier in the timeline because of their dependency on people and factors that are difficult to change after the trial is launched. While many of these are frequently considered in planning, obtaining more in-depth or broader perspectives may be required to help inform decisions. Given the ultimate reliance on sites to achieve recruitment targets, these elements focus on incorporating better partnerships to ensure trial visibility and the use of data, tools, and evidence to better identify participants, cohorts, and sites. And we'll talk a little bit more about this later when we have people here from community engagement. So, the clinical trials enterprise often takes communication as an assumed function in the trial development phase. Yet it may be unclear how to fully engage an audience for a deeper understanding of their attitudes and perspectives. To successfully complete enrollment for a trial, it is essential that study teams are aware of stakeholders' needs in order to maximize their engagement and support. With a data-driven approach, it is possible to elicit these insights. By developing more engaging messages deployed through the right channels, study teams will gain the attention of their target audience. So no matter how beautifully recruitment materials are designed or how perfect strategies are executed, if the protocol is too complex, the study won't apply to a significant portion of patient population. With too many inclusion and exclusion requirements, Willing volunteers are often unable to participate because they don't qualify. And according to a study in 2002 by Tufts CSDD, the total number of eligibility criteria for typical phase 3 trials jumped from 31 to 50 in over a 10-year span. Increasing the complexity can also cause confusion for prospective volunteers. If people don't understand the protocol, they likely won't participate. Dozens of patients can be screened, but if they aren't eligible or lose interest in a study, it's back to square one. A protocol should be designed incorporating for the patient's perspective to help anticipate enrollment and realistically reach the available populations. Another problem that we tend to run into is that people are not tracking their recruitment results. It's important to ask volunteers when you're enrolling them, how did they heard about the study, and document that information. You can use those metrics and analytics as hard data to justify why you may need an increase in advertising budget and for more recruitment efforts. Examining what was effective and what didn't work helps plan future recruitment, knowing what to continue doing and how to avoid making the same mistakes. Knowing why people do and don't enroll for clinical trials is important to understand, but it's not always the information that can be used in ad copy. Recruitment materials need to reflect the intent of the study, presenting it in an easy way to understand and honest. When creating your recruitment materials, it is important to think of health literacy levels, since only 12% of US adults have proficient health literacy. It's important to utilize plain language as much as possible so that your participants can understand your study. Plain language is a strategy for making written and oral information easier to understand. It's one important tool for improving health literacy, and it's something that our office will, when working with you, will bring up a lot. Plain language is a communication that users can understand the first time they read or hear it. With reasonable time and effort, a plain language document is one in which most people can find what they need, understand what they find, and act appropriately on that understanding. So these are some key elements regarding plain language, and there's also training available online through PRISM and a couple other resources. So there are several advertising mediums, and when planning a recruitment campaign, it's critical to know what media is at your disposal and how you can leverage those outlets to fit your recruitment goals. We're going to discuss a few of those mediums and some strengths and weaknesses of those. So sometimes you'll see, I don't think it's something that we use here often, but television commercials are a way to do that. Unfortunately, more and more people are cutting the cord, so it's not always useful, and they can also be very costly to create these types of ads. The radio, I do know that there are some teams on campus that rely on radio ads. I hear them often when in the car, but unfortunately, they do have a lower pocket expense, but they are background noise to most people, and they might not really be listening to what the ad and the message is trying to convey. Newspapers, so you can run ads in newspapers, and then often we'll even see where some studies are featured in like the Columbus Dispatch or even in national outlets. When that tends to happen, our office, through our HERO helpline, will receive a lot of phone calls of people wanting to get involved with those ads. So if you do know that your ad is going to be or your study is going to be featured in the news, it's always a great opportunity to reach out to us so we can help work with you to help triage those calls and develop a plan moving forward. And digital, which we will talk about later today. As we know, it's definitely an emerging way to recruit. It does have a lower cost. It gives you more control through targeting. And there's several factors that I know will be discussed this afternoon. So common methods that are used on OSU campus. I know we've all seen them on the On Campus Today newsletters. Those are very frequently used. Bus advertising is an option, flyers. We have study search, there's Facebook, and word of mouth. So the CCTS is a great place to start working on your project. Like Stuart mentioned, we do have several cores available to assist you. Today we're talking to you about recruitment and retention, and it's just one of several programs that can help you with your recruitment planning. And again, we will continue to have speakers about those throughout the morning. So our goal in the Recruitment and Retention Office is to support researchers. The goal of every research study is one that is fully recruited with high retention. In order to make that goal a possibility, Research teams are encouraged to request recruitment and retention consultation early in their planning. Consultation is available for research teams with help on designing marketing materials, assistance with using Research Match and getting IRB approval for that. We can help you with listing your study on Study Search. We can also help with creating a positive environment for the research team and study participants through customer service training. And there is a handout out front with some information about our services there. So with our time here in the recruitment office, and many of you might know Rose, she spent a lot of time working on promoting our office and the work that we do. And that was more just to create awareness of participating in research, not just what we can do in our office. So we created a study search site, and we have developed the Research Match. And she made sure that we can be found on the Wexner's website. There's a link to participate in research, where people in the community can learn more about being part of research here at OSU. There's even a link now that can be found on My Chart, where when they're inside My Chart, there is an option to participate in research as well. That will take them to our landing page.
So Tiffany mentioned earlier some of the different ways that we are able to reach out to volunteer participants and let them know about some of the studies that are currently going on. One of the ways that we have is we have a Hero Helpline. So you can see up there, there's a phone number as well as an email address that folks can use. So oftentimes we'll get numerous calls during the day. We try and reach back out to them, if not immediately, within 24 to 48 hours if they give us a call. A lot of times they know exactly what study they're looking for. They just don't know who to contact about that. But we also have many people that call in. They may have a medical condition. They're concerned about possibly getting into a research study, not only to help them, but to help others as well. And that's kind of what we do. So we have different methods of seeing what's out there. As far as the clinical trials and research that's taking place. We also use another method called Study Search, which we'll talk about as well. We have the CCTS Facebook page as well. And then again, we also have something called clinicaltrials.gov, which we can also research other things that are out there that may be related to what they're looking for. If they do call in, we try and follow up with an email. And so we summarize what we've discussed, as well as possibly giving them some links to studies that we know may be currently recruiting. So hang on here. So we can assist in the recruitment and retention office with some of the designing of the marketing materials, if that's something that you're looking forward to. Oftentimes people request assistance with postcards. They'll take those postcards and sometimes they'll use those out in the clinics, depending on what they're trying to get participants for. That's one method that they can use to recruit participants. Also, for any study that is published on Study Search, we are able to do social media posts for. We also have somebody in our office that helps us out with those. We can give you suggestions, as well as we have different types of graphics and artwork that we can help with.
So when you use Study Search, we can do a basic social media post for you, just directing you back to Study Search. Or you have an option to work through our office for paid social media, which would be targeted advertising, where you come in and we build a search based on criteria such as age, location, health conditions, interest, and then you actually have to pay for the ad at that point. The thing is that you can spend $50, you can spend $500. It's really up to you what amount of funds you put towards that. We've had some very successful people who have used this service and they continue to use it. So it is something that is definitely worth considering as a part of your recruitment strategy. And then there is Research Match, which is a secure NIH-sponsored volunteer registry that is available to research teams at OSU. when you go into Research Match, we like to really help you from the beginning of that process. And that starts with us helping you write a message based on the eligibility criteria and the burden, the participant's burden, and we release some information for them, even based on stipends since it's in Research Match. There are some rules that go in writing the message. So like we said, it's best to work with us on that. Currently, there's over 130,000 volunteers registered, and I think close to 10,000 within 50 miles of OSU. So it's definitely a tool worth considering. You're even able to do some feasibility searches based on your studies criteria to see if it might be a good tool for you. And you can do that without IRB approval. To actually act as a recruitment, use it as a recruitment tool, you do have to have IRB approval to access the site.
So one of the other methods that I briefly touched on before was something called Study Search. Study Search is an online tool which lists research studies that are seeking volunteers at Ohio State as well as Nationwide Children's Hospital. It's all written in plain language. It is searchable by anybody that registers themselves as a volunteer. We use this frequently. We are also trying to clean up the database as well a little bit because there are some studies out there that are no longer recruiting, that have finished up, but this is an excellent way when people call into the Hero line. This is an excellent way that they can go out there and they have control of searching on their own as well. So it gives them a little bit more time rather than just hanging on the phone with us while we search. But we always recommend Study Search because it is updated almost daily with new studies out there. So it's a great tool for our volunteer participants to use.
So this is just a comparison for Study Search and Research Match because people often get confused. There's a few things that I would like to point out. So both of them are accessible through our office. So Study Search, studies may list immediately once they're IRB approved. Research Match, you do have to have specific IRB approval to use it. And Study Search, potential participants can search for studies, whereas in Research Match, it's the control lies in with the researcher. The researcher is the one who, with their team, they go in and they are able to build searches and contact people through that. You can also track in Research Match, so you can there's a continuum that you follow, and you're able to put people either as in contact or declined, wherever they fall as you work with them. In Study Search, there's no tracking, unfortunately, for our research teams. It's just basically a public listing for the sites.
Can I give a testimonial?
Sure.
Because I've used research, I've signed up on both of those, and I think it was about 6 weeks ago I got a call from the Department of Ophthalmology and was part of a research study about different ways of measuring pressure in your eye and some other new technologies for eye studies. So it does work, and people like me sign up and other people sign up, and it was enjoyable to be a part of the research study. And I also get a lot of emails regularly from people doing survey studies from Research Match, especially.
Very good.
Oh, good.
So if you haven't signed up already on Research Match, please sign up. We encourage everyone to do that, Research Match as well as Study Search, so that you can also see what the folks that you're trying to recruit are seeing as well. One of the importances of customer service in research, it's very important to the retention of your participants. So we have in our office developed something called the Participant Satisfaction Survey, which would go out to these participants. It's one way that we can reach out to them and get feedback. It will help you. It will also help others. Another suggestion would be a thank you letter from the PI. So if you're not good at writing, we would ask that you give us a call. Maybe we can give you some suggestions and we can help you write those as well. It always helps in the retention of participants if you show appreciation for the time that they're giving to you as well.
I did want to make one more remark about customer service. Our office in the past have been involved with some labs to offer customer service training as a tool to help make sure everybody's on the same page on what expectations are for your study. I do believe we're going to have somebody talking later this morning about their experience with that. But we do have a slide on here about core, which is where you can also request services at. We're hoping to have that replaced in December or January, so make sure you're checking our website for what our new tool will be to request services through the CCTS. I do want to preface this by saying I am not an expert in research informatic tools at all. I did think it was important to share with you today, so I reached out to somebody in our office to get this information to pass on because we are all interested in feasibility as we're considering our studies. So one of the ones that I wanted to talk about today was I2B2, which stands for the Informatics for Integrating Biology at the Bedside. It enables cohort discovery and checking feasibility of clinical studies. It is available for use by faculty and staff, but not students. If you are interested in using I2B2, you would just need to go to Buckeye Learn and search I2B2, and you'll be able to complete the training that's required to use it. This is the interface that it looks like. It's pretty simple to use. It's a drag and drop function, but you do have to kind of know where things lie to be able to find it. This is some of the information that is available through I2B2, such as demographics, diagnosis, procedures, and medications. And there's also research data requests that can be found through our office. You can facilitate research-related access to data stored in IHIS and IW. That could be PHI data or non-PHI. And it does require Honest Broker Operations Committee approval. And this is just kind of a workflow for how that happens if you're considering if you need data for research and what steps you need to take depending on what data you need. And this is how you can actually request this process. The form is available on the CCTS website. And again, that's through the BMI area of our services. And then there is PCORnet. PCORI is funded by the Patient-Centered Outcomes Research Institute, and it harnesses the power of large amounts of health data and patient partnership. At OSU, tables are directly sourced from Clarity or OSU's health plan, and data is available from November 2011 and onward. Again, I am not an expert in this. I am just sharing the information with you. For more information on PCORnet, you would need to see the BMI website. And as with all of CCTS services, we do ask that you cite and submit because the majority of our services are free to you since they are subsidized through our grant. And what questions do you have for us, if any?